Welcome to your weekly podcast from Freestyle Media in partnership with the Magic 5. So lots of people train alone, whether that's exclusively or maybe on the side of swimming with a club just to get an extra session or two in. You might be lucky enough to have a coach that writes you a session, but for a lot of us, we find ourselves writing our own programs. But our guest today offers programs specifically for master swimmers, whether you do one session or 6 sessions, and tailors them to your preferences. Recently, a Masters British record holder as well as part of a relay team. It's a welcome back to the swimsuit guy, Sonny Trigg. So thanks for coming on, Sonny.
Good morning, Joe. Cheers for having me back on. We were just talking before we went live, and it was November last year when I was last on this show. I mean, they say time flies, but that's like that's a shock to me because in my head I was like, was it March? Was it February? Because I'm wearing one of my new T-shirts, and I was like, did I have the T-shirt on last time I went on the show? And I think it was the last show before you started uploading them to YouTube. So I think the show after we went live, you then went onto YouTube. So I couldn't even check and see what I was wearing. And then I'm like, no, did I have the T-shirts out? Well, the T-shirts come out in March, so I definitely didn't have the T-shirt on when we last spoke.
Go back and sort of watch it and find that for you if you want, but it definitely wasn't. If they came out in March, it definitely wasn't. But it's been weird for me because I watch your content on YouTube. So again, we said this earlier. I actually feel like I see you every week rather than having it been that long. But no, it's all good. So firstly, a lot has changed since we last spoke. You're now back on the pool deck. You've been back on the pool deck since we spoke with Dartmoor Darts. So how's that been going?
Look, I love coaching. I love being around swimming, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I'm doing. I feel like the more active I am with swimming, the better content I make and stuff like that. So I was kind of approached at the end of last year, probably about 4 weeks after we last spoke. So the head coach of Dartmoor Darts left at sort of a small notice. He's a great master swimmer himself, and I understand his position. Coaching's tough. And they asked me if I wanted to step in. I sort of said yes on an interim basis. So I wanted to get the guys, through the last 8 months of the season. And we're a small squad. We do things very differently, 6 times a week, no mornings. And, we've had like the level of achievement we've had with this little group this year is crazy. I coach 10 swimmers on a daily basis. 8 of them are going to be swimming at the summer at one of the national meets. One of them come 8th at the World Trials in the 100 breaststroke, a senior age group. He's 19. We've got another lad who is ranked currently 7th in Germany for the 50 and 100 backstroke, and he's racing at German nationals next week. So, I'm hoping that ranking is going to go even higher. He won the Adam Peaty meet in the 50 back, just 18. Fritz Dietz. I've got 2 really impressive 13-year-olds. One of them is the fastest 50 backstroker in the country, and hey, if all goes well in about 4 weeks' time, he could be an age group British record holder. So it's just, and I could keep going and tell you about all my kids, but they're all fantastic. And as I said, like when you've got 10 kids swimming on a daily basis with you, 6 of them make British summer meet, 2 make English, and 2 miss. I mean, that's pretty good going. I mean, not many clubs in the country can say 80% make nationals.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it sounds like it's been really successful, and I know it's coming to an end soon. But that ties in nicely with the fact that you offer these programs online, because what would you say that you've, having already coached around the world with some of the best swimmers going, seen probably some of the most amazing training plans that other coaches have put in place, what have you learned yourself from these kind of 8 months ahead of going into what your next sort of venture is?
Yeah. Wow. What a question, Joe. And this is a question I could literally answer for about a week of podcast time because, you had an episode the other day where you talked about the perfect training volume. And I mean, first of all, there's 2 pieces at play here. There's a perfect training volume, probably per event, but also for a perfect organism. Someone that doesn't think, someone that recovers perfectly, doesn't like a beer on the weekend, which is completely appropriate and applicable for master swimmers in the programs I offer. Goes to bed at 8 o'clock, wakes up at 8 a.m., doesn't have to go to work, and sit around and stretch all day, do some yoga. They're the guys that the volume they need, and they can handle is great. But when you look at kids like I'm coaching who go to school, have social lives, go to other sports clubs, they don't need as much as you think. And the same goes for master swimmers, where you go to work in the day, you've maybe got a couple of kids, maybe, you like to take your wife out on a Friday night for a few drinks, and if you don't have the correct balance, it doesn't matter how much you do, and that's the whole point of this program, is to offer, well, one, from what I've learned coaching some of the best swimmers in the world, and make that into a more masters friendly package. But it's to explain that if you're a swimmer who's doing 10 sessions a week as a masters, and you're wondering why you're not getting faster, there's a million and one reasons why you're not getting faster, and like you should swim to your level. I mean, I see it in age group swimming where 12-year-olds swim 8, 9, 10 times a week, and then they're barely a county level, like county qualifier. And it's like, why are you swimming that much? You're not good enough to swim that much, and you just repeat this bad habit. But it's the same as a master swimmer. If you're you started masters quite late, maybe you didn't swim as a kid, or maybe you just don't recover because you're swimming every morning before a 10-hour shift, and then you're going swimming again. There's no, even if the quality and the actual content of your training is world class, you're too tired to actually benefit from it. And therefore, you should cut down literally 100% of your sessions. And then there's the content, and that's another whole thing. But masters programs, I mean, especially ones I've watched, witnessed, been part of, they just swim up and down a lot because that keeps people happy. They're social, and the social part is hugely important. And I'll never overlook the social part of going to a club versus swimming on your own. But when you're just going 2100s again, or 10 200s, or just unguided efforts up and down without any purpose, you won't get quicker. Hey, you might get fit, you might have a six-pack, you might burn 1,000 calories, but you're not going to get good at swimming. You're not going to get fast at swimming. And you've got to make the decision, if you're listening to this and you're a swimmer, do you want to be fast next time you race, or do you just want to have a good time with your mates 3 or 4 or 10 times a week?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. And I've actually, I've had a couple of kind of experiences in the last kind of 6 months myself with a couple of different clubs. One where, both had coaches. One where the coach would just set you off on your program, 10 100s, 5 200s, whatever it may be, and there's like no feedback. So you just kind of swimming up and down, like you say. You don't know if you're swimming with quality necessarily because you're not hearing about it. Fair play to the coach for being there, giving their time. But I wouldn't say the quality of coaching was fantastic. And then I've got an experience right now with Belper Marlins, with Mike Brett as the coach, and then a couple of other coaches as well. The feedback's fantastic, and they're literally picking everything apart, partially because I've asked them to, but they're happy to do that. And I mean, already I feel like in the space of kind of 6 weeks, I've really tightened my stroke back up again, and I feel a lot better through the water. And all of that is just because of some quality coaching and some quality sets. It's not just slogging up and down. I mean, for you, do you think it's sort of, now that you are a master swimmer yourself, is that kind of why you've been inspired by doing this for master swimmers, or is it just because you've seen too many master swimmers just kind of burning the oil and not really getting the quality?
I think to a degree, everything you just said is applicable to what I'm doing here. But I mean, the first thing is, about almost 2 years ago now, January 2022, I started a Patreon. Like, I was looking at monetizing what I was doing a little bit more, and I've seen Patreon and people do Patreon, so I put up, like, I think it was like $3 just to support me. I didn't give you anything for that, and then I put like $20 for a T-shirt, which Patreon made. It's not the merch I sell currently. And then I was like, screw it. Let's just put a $200 option on, personalized program. And I put it on. I never advertised it. I never spoke about it. And about 6 months later, someone signed up for it. And I'm like, whoa, okay. What am I meant to do here? So I started sending them sessions, and they started swimming well and racing fast. And I was like, this ain't all that bad. So around the time when we spoke last time, my girlfriend helped me build a website. And I actually made it like, that's the main option. I'm going to sell online training programs. And I didn't know if I was going to get no one ever sign up again, but I started getting more and more people. And I realized a few things. One, the clientele basis was predominantly masters. So I've only actually rebranded it to Masters Program literally a week ago. That's because the clientele was predominantly masters. But the other thing is, I was getting a lot of age group swimmers, and they'd say to me, like, I'm 13, I want to get faster. I currently swim at this club, but, my dad's prepared to take me and do your sessions. And I'll say, no. Like, you're 13. You might, in a year's time, you might be better at swimming doing my programs. But your dad's not a professional coach in these situations. He's not qualified, so he can't give you the feedback that you're going to need. But most importantly, you're going to lose the social aspect at 13, 14 that's going to keep you swimming.
Yes.
So I kind of don't, I didn't want to sell my program to them people. Whereas master swimmers, I really think that they can benefit from doing better swimming. But as I said, it's all about the balance. And my program, what we do is, so say you sign up, Joe, and you say to me, hey, Sonny, I've got super full-time work and I've got 2 kids and I can get in the pool 3 times a week for an hour tops. So I'm like, great, leave that with me. You have 3 45-minute sessions and I'm going to have you swimming PBs. So the concept really isn't that you come to me to tell you that you need to swim 8 times a week and you're like, well, that's not possible. I can't do that. You come to me to say, this is how much I can swim, and I make you swim fast with what you've got to offer. Not more, not less. And that's because I think that's really possible, right? And I think it's really like, if you actually take, a lot of master swimmers programs and you actually extract how much of it actually makes them faster, it's probably like 1% of what they do. And another whole issue is, you're talking about your previous coach who didn't really give you the feedback, but swimming coaches who actually work for clubs with age group swimmers, they're not earning enough money. So I doubt there's many masters coaches in the country who are definitely not salaried, but they might get 15 quid an hour for 2 or 3 sessions a week. But it's a hobby, and as you said, fair play to these masters coaches for just being there. I bet most of them are voluntary, and ultimately you don't get the best when it's a voluntary role or a part-time role, and it sounds like you're in a really fortunate situation. And if you're watching this and you are in a fortunate situation, good for you. But if you're not, then there are better options. And it comes back to that question, do you want to get better at swimming, or do you just want to enjoy, swimming for the next 50 years of your life and just getting a little slower every year?
No, fair enough. Right, let's talk about the kind of the service that we would expect then. So let's say I come to you and say, yeah, Sonny, I'd like a program. And so do we start an initial conversation where I tell you about my situation? So as you kind of alluded to anyway, let's say I can do 3 sessions a week on these days. And then once we're up and running and I start your program, are there like monthly check-ins or kind of how does all of that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, I offer the service I offer. It can be in addition to being part of a program. So I've got a fair few people that swim 2 or 3 times a week with a masters club, and we just call that their aerobic side with their social side. And they just tell me how many. Went 4K with the masters group on a Monday, and I went 4K again on Thursday. And then what I do is I might give them 2 supplementary sessions a week, which is like their quality, their sprint work, their fast work. So I've got quite a few people doing that and actually splitting between their club and what I can offer. And I think that's a really nice balance because, you need the soft side, the aerobic side and the social side. And also you need maybe some actually focused quality work. The other side is generally, or the main bulk of my people though, is definitely people that already train alone. They're people that, they squeeze in a 40-minute session in their lunch break, or they go to public lanes in the morning when they know it's a little emptier and they can get a lane to themselves, or after work, or so a big bulk is masters swimmers, and honestly, it's ones that are pretty competitive, right? These are guys that want to be good. Like I've got multiple swimmers at World Masters in 4 weeks' time. I've had people break masters age group records in Canada. I've had people win medals at US Open, US Masters Nationals. Which is maybe the best masters meet in the world. So I've got these are people that are sorting out better information and they've already been coaching themselves. But back to the service that I provide. I have 3 options. One, the cheapest option. You get up to 4 sessions a week, and it's hands on, but not as hands on as maybe you get a call every week or anything. Then the second option is the same option, but you get 6 sessions a week. I don't really think many master swimmers have an absolute need for 6 sessions a week. Unless you're swimming 200, 400, 800 freestyle, 400 IM, you probably don't need 6 sessions a week as a master swimmer. And then I have the final option, which is more expensive, but it's fully hands-on. Weekly check-ins on the phone. You send me videos every day for review. I'll do it. That's the money option that you get. Real hands-on. But the most typical options, we start off with some dialogue. When do you want to train? How often do you want to train? When are your competitions? Which of the competitions do you want to be tapered and rested and peaked for? What you've been doing previously, because as much as I can say my content might be better than the content they've been doing previously, there's no point me taking them instantly from doing 30k weeks to 5k weeks and then wondering why they die at the end of a race, right? I'm not, so then we can create a good progression from what they were doing and adapt them nicely into what they are doing. And then beyond that, it's a real simple thing. I make a Google Drive, and maybe going down the line when I do this full time, I'm going to try and make an app and, make it all fancy. But right now you have a Google Drive, you have a spreadsheet, which is like your entire season plan with all your meets, when you're going to taper. We track your volume each week. We track what types of session you do each week. All the sessions are color graded by Tom Rushton's sort of physiological color grading. And then at the beginning of each week, you'll just go, right, week 3, and there'll be your sessions populated in the drive. You click on them. Any questions, you just give me a WhatsApp message and I'll tell you, okay, yeah, explain that drill or explain that thing. Look, the package doesn't actually include things like video review and stuff, but I'm pretty good. If you send me some race videos, I'll probably tear them up for you. And, I reply way more than I should to my clients. So, that's kind of the package you get. But yeah, bottom line is we make you swim faster, you get better sessions, and but also, sorry, and this is something I should mention, is I work with clubs as well. I've got 4 swimming clubs all around the world now. They're not masters programs, they're all age group programs that I write sessions for. And if you're a masters club in the UK who either doesn't have a coach or has a coach that's voluntary, either doesn't back their own sessions or wants to have better sessions or whatever, I can write the sessions for your masters club. And I think that's something that clubs can really benefit from. Like my sessions are inspired by working with literally the best athletes in the world, working alongside people like James Gibson, Tom Rushton, the list goes on. So if you want sessions that are world class for your master swimmers, then I could also do that for entire programs. That's also an option I do.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, actually, because that was going to be my next question about, would you provide for clubs? Because I know swimmers who swim for clubs that don't have a coach, and they kind of take it in turns as swimmers to write the session, which is great. And I know a lot of these swimmers are brilliant. They're very fast, but it's brilliant to know that you can offer that service for a whole club, which is, I guess, is quite a different kettle of fish, really, because you'd have to. You're not just talking on a personal level to one person. It's kind of providing for a whole club, which is good. But one question I would like to ask is, again, as somebody myself who has gone to a lot of sessions on my own, sometimes you try and pick the right times, when the pool's going to be quieter, but sometimes that's just not the case. And you're sharing a lane with a couple of people that are just really slow, and they're turning on the wall just as you're coming in. They've got sort of no awareness, basically. Can you provide a kind of an option A and an option B? And the option B being, look, if it's really busy and you can't get the quality that you want, this is what we'll do instead.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm really spoiled. I'm as soon as we end this, I'm going to head over to the Life Centre in Plymouth. I'm going to go for a swim myself. I'm being joined by one of my pals. We're going to have a great workout, and I can always guarantee at this time of the day I'm going to have a lane to myself, which is just so fortunate. And I forget how bad public swimming is in a lot of the UK. Fortunately, for a lot of the world, public swimming is pretty good. In America, because they have these 50-meter pools that are like widths in yards, they have like 20 lanes for public. And a lot of the guys I have on this program in America and Canada, they get a lane to themselves like I do when I swim. And I've actually not encountered too many problems of people having issues with lane space because I've got an international clientele. But yeah, with the UK, it's an issue. And I have run into that a few times with some of my UK clients. It's kind of one of them questions, right? Like I'm just the most obnoxious public swimmer ever, but I'm really like hell bent that whatever I'm doing on any given day, I'm going to do it. And if that's real simple aerobics where I'm just doing hundreds of 130, then I just do it, right? But if I'm going 25 max off of a minute, but ultimately, I don't know what's easier or harder to do in a busy lane, like fast stuff where you need decent space, or aerobic stuff where you maybe want to go on a tighter send off. And to be honest, if I'm doing aerobic stuff where maybe or even going up the threshold and I want to go like off 120 or 115 or 110 if I'm much fitter than I am now for say 100s, I really care about when I'm leaving. I don't want to take extra rest or less rest. So then if I'm taking my 8 seconds rest for 100 and someone turns in front of me, my options are to take another 20 seconds rest, which in my opinion eradicates the set and I'm going to get way more rest, or I push off and swim over the top of them, which none of us want to do. Whereas 25s, if I'm going max off of a minute, it doesn't matter if I go on 130 or 115 or 1 minute. I'm just getting more rest and making more quality. So if I'm honest, I would say it's the aerobic session. And people think it's the fast stuff that is harder to do in a busy lane. I think, like, if I've told you you're doing 625s max, like all out with fins and paddles, I would just say wait until you've got a clear lane. If that means you go every 2 minutes, great, you're going to go even faster. So personally, I find it the aerobic side struggles, and I think as well, like that's a lot of swimming is about control, and like you have to do it off this send off time, this effort, and I try and with these programs try and educate you that it's actually okay if you take a little extra rest or take a little less rest or go, if you always get to 15 on a max 25 and there's someone in your lane, go a set of 8:15s instead of 6:25s, go 8:15s, but make them even faster. And actually going, I don't know if that actually perfectly answered your question, but that's what I would do about busy lanes is I'd just make an educated modification. And I can give examples of maybe if it's a regular problem, I can say, well, look, if you're regularly having to modify sessions, these are the modifications I would make and think you could gain from. But actually just going towards content now, look, the biggest limitation of my program is I'm not on deck with anyone, any individual or any program giving feedback to make you a better swimmer. And for some swimmers, that will be the biggest gains you can make. So I'm not there. If you're on my program, Joe, I can look at videos you've sent me, but I can't be there going, hey, Joe, that looked good, but you've got to just change this little thing. And they're important. Yeah. But in terms of actual content, especially with master swimmers, I can't exaggerate how important getting faster is, right? And, what is getting faster? That means you can travel through the water, your terminal velocity is increased than it was yesterday. It's the hardest thing to improve in swimming, right? If you go 30 flat for 50 freestyle, but your 100 freestyle is 115, oh my God, that's easy to improve. Just work hard a few times a week, and how can you not get your back end increased, right? Whereas to improve that 30-0 to 29-5, that means you have to get faster. And the thing with us, Joe, is we're not getting bigger and stronger because we're not 12 anymore. We can't just rely on growth and puberty to make us a better swimmer. We have to actually make ourselves a better swimmer. So to get faster, that involves actually specific training. And that means actually swimming in training faster than you were previously. That's not 2050's best average off a minute. That is not making you faster. Oh, that will improve your 100 back end, sure. But it's not going to improve your front end speed. And that is the most neglected thing in master swimming, which makes zero sense because the majority of masters enter 50s and 100s. And if you're never getting faster in training, how on earth do you expect that you're going to turn up and race? And then it's like, oh, my 50 backstroke was the same as it was last year at Nationals, but I've worked harder this year. Well, you've worked harder, you've done more, but you've not actually improved the speed. And it doesn't matter what, even if you tell me, Joe, but Joe, Sonny, I don't race 50s. I race 200s and 400s. Well, you're limited still by your speed. So every single swimmer in the world, especially master swimmers, should be factoring speed above all else, and then just topping that up with a little bit of aerobic work. And it's the complete opposite in master swimming from my perspective.
No, that's a really good point. And so talking about getting faster, then, like actually physically getting faster, how do we track progress on your program? Are we always working off the clock, and are we having to write all our times down and then send them back to you?
Look, I mean, this is another whole thing. Is the best way to track progress is maybe just each week you go a dive 25 and see what it is compared to the week before, or even a push 15. But we don't all have someone to time us. We don't all have the ability to have a coach or all these things. And we do have some tech, some wearable tech that some of my swimmers start using, but the accuracy of these things, I think we're getting closer, but it's not perfect enough that I would say, hey, you have to get a flex device to wear. Heart rate we're really good for. Heart rate we have the trackers now, but times from the trackers not quite there yet. So yeah, unless you've got someone to time you and measure you, maybe we don't actually know if you're getting faster. But I mean, all I will say is if you do the sessions that I'm providing and you give 100% effort to say 6:15s fins and paddles, or with a sponge or a loofah or a parachute or some sort of resistance, then you will get faster. Like there's no way. It's like if you lift weights every week, you get stronger, right? Like there's certain physiological demands that lead to a result. And if you do power work and speed work in the pool, you will get faster. And the ultimate way, if you never get timed in training, you will be able to measure that result, because you'll go and race, be it in October at the Masters Nationals, and you'll go a PB. Like, and not just as like a Masters PB, I'm talking an all-time best. They're my goals with everyone who sign up, is to get all-time bests. I don't care if you're 50, 60, 30. I want you to swim faster than you've ever swum before. Even if you was a swimmer as a kid. I've got one guy at the British Masters, a few weeks ago. He went 30 flat, long course, 50 back for the first time in his life. He quit when he was 18. He started swimming again 20 years later, and he's swimming all-time bests now, right? And he'll get that 29 at World Masters soon, I'm sure. But like, that's my goal, is to get all-time bests, and that's the ultimate measurable way. And you got to trust. I know coaches love to say it, but you got to trust the process at some points, right?
Yeah.
But that's how you know when you race. But if you can have someone time you, even better. And I'd love to hear that. But I mean, and just sorry, I'm waffling a lot, but the accountability thing is there as well. So I have some people that don't even want much feedback from me, but they tell me how every session goes. They send me an email, and I generally put something back like, "Oh, flying today," or "Doing really good." But they say, like, I know it's not part of the service that you give me feedback on every single one of my sessions. And if I'm honest, if I had to give feedback on every single one of every client's sessions on the base program, I wouldn't have any time in my life. But people do know that I'm there watching and listening and hearing how they've done, and that's what keeps you accountable. It's not just like, hell, I can tell you right now, I'm going to go swim with my mate after this podcast, and I plan on swimming, say, 2.5K. But I know I'm pretty tired. It's a Friday, right? I've worked all week. Maybe I'll get to 1,500 and I'll be like, well, oh well. But these guys know that if I ask them how their session went and they tell me they didn't do the whole thing, I'll be like, what do you mean you didn't do the whole thing? So there is still that coaching accountability, and people want to impress me a little bit, I guess. And ultimately, they then know if they do what I say, they have no excuses when it comes to the race day. They'll swim fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the accountability also comes from, once people invest in your service, I certainly would think, right, well, I'm paying for this now. What's the point of not doing it? I'm just wasting my money if I'm not doing all the sessions and swimming every kind of meter. So I think the accountability also comes there. Final question then, just around all of these programs is, how can we find your programs? I assume they're on your website. So what is your website, and then where else can we find them?
Yeah, no, look, I still have an option on Patreon, but I don't really push that at all. So www.TheSwimsuitGuy.co.uk. Look, I have 3 programs now. I have the Masters Plus, which is the 6 sessions a week. And then I have the fully personalized coach option, which is a load more, but I said weekly FaceTimes with me, loads of feedback, loads of things. And if you have any questions about any of these programs, if I've rambled and not made concise sense on this podcast, just shoot me an email and I'll explain everything. What you'll get is it's way more personal than it should be, and I hope that's sustainable for me. But we can chat about things, and I'm not a tyrant, right? If you tell me you've been coaching yourself for the last 5 years and you find you got good results doing this sort of work, we'll make sure we keep that sort of work, right? I'm not here to just tell you you're wrong. Your previous way is wrong. And it's the same thing. If you're a coach listening to this and like you would like help writing your sessions and you'd like to see your age group or masters program thrive, we can work together, right? It's not just me saying, hey, you've been a crap coach for 10 years and you need to radicalize everything you're doing. I can say like, well, let's make a bit more of a periodized plan. Let's work on this side of things. What events do the majority of your masters group race? And we can actually have like educated discussions where I can almost mentor or guide you, in a positive and productive way for your group. And hell, look, I've got time next year. If you're a master's program and you'd like me to come and hang out for a week, I'm sure we can work out clinics and camps. And these are just ideas that I'm having on the fly. But I'd love to come and help masters swimming in the UK really thrive. I know the last World Masters UK top or GB topped the medal table, so we have a really positive and thriving masters community in this country. And I think it can still be better yet.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And let's not forget you are a master swimmer yourself now. And not only that, you are a British record holder. So it was at the recent British Masters Championships. I'm right in saying it was the 4x50, wasn't it? The 4x50 free.
We got 3 British records. So
You got 3, right?
Yeah. We planned on swimming all relays. It was the previous head coach of Dartmoor Darts, Matt Henry, good friend of mine, brilliant masters swimmer. He's a age group masters record holder in individual events, from 50 butterfly to 200 freestyle. I think he's lost his 50 butterfly record actually now, but he's still got the 200 free. He went like 151 at 32, which is like mad fast, right? I think it was like February this year. One of my mates said, hey, Sonny, he recently retired from full-time swimming, great swimmer himself. And he said, Sonny, we need to race masters together. I'm like, cool. So I literally, from that message, I said, are you free? Are you free? Whatever the dates were, June the 10th or whatever it was. I text my mate Kieran, one of my other best pals, a great swimmer himself. Kieran, you free this weekend? Masters relays. He's like, I'm in. Text Matt, Masters. He's like, I'm in. We all were like, all right, this is on. So we had our team and we said we're going to do all 5 relays. Unfortunately, we missed the 4x1 medley because it took me and Kieran like 10 hours to get from Plymouth to Sheffield. It was emotional. And then we broke the record in the 4x50 freestyle. We broke the record in the 4x50 medley. We broke the record in the 4x100 freestyle. We just missed the European record in that one, actually. I let the team down. And in the 4x200, we were absolutely emotional. The 3 months of training didn't quite service us, and we missed that by quite a mile. And that's a really impressive British record from Totnes. It's a sub 8-minute swim. So yeah, really good going by Totnes. We didn't quite get that one, but we're really excited for short course, and we want to get multiple world records at this one. So that's the new aim.
Fantastic. And somebody else who's going for a world record, of course, is Brett Hawke. Are you going to be writing his programs now he's back in the water?
So I think Brett, I shouldn't promote him, but Brett's one of my best pals. He's going to be doing a similar thing. He's going to be doing sprint programs for masters swimmers. So I don't know, if you don't think my programs are up for scratch, maybe go and check Brett's out when he launches them. But no, Brett's going to absolutely write his own programs. It's funny. Like, I think one of my most profound effects on people is to make someone who had quit swimming want to swim again. I love swimming. I'm really contagious with it. And the amount of people that I've bumped into and they're like, I used to swim. And then like 6 weeks later, they're back in a program, right? Like swimming faster than ever. Not swimming faster because of me, just back in the pool because of me. Yeah. And I've known Brett, well, since we started talking in COVID, right? So what's about 3 years ago? I've talked with Brett almost on a weekly basis for 3 years now. And now it's a daily basis. And I always test the water with him like, do you want to swim again? Like you're ripped, like you're jacked. You work out a lot. Why don't you swim a 53? No, I've swum. I've done that. I've completed that. And recently, I think he's seen like I don't know. Maybe I've inspired him. Maybe he just has fancied it at last. But yeah, we're planning on doing the World Masters together in Doha next year. In I think it's February, March 2024. And I'm super excited. Like he. I mean, look, if anyone's capable of swimming a World Masters record, it's the guy who made the final at the Olympics and has been 22-0. So I'm super excited. He's in great shape. And, the other person I'm always working on is James Gibson. I'd love to see him back in the pool, but I think he's going to be a harder sell than Brett. But that being said, he has been doing some open water masters events in Turkey recently. So I don't know, Maybe I can get James. Maybe one day I'll be on a relay with Brett, James, and my dad, and then we'll unfortunately not make any records because my dad will let us down.
That sounds that sounds brilliant, and actually really genuinely want to see that now. So I think I might start getting onto Brett and James as well, just to push them. Final question before we finish is: you are the swimsuit guy, so I can't have you on a podcast without talking about swimsuit. So you don't have to go into all of them, but my question would be: what would be your number one swimsuit for a guy and for a female this year?
Have I got any behind me? There we go. So for a guy, I like Mizuno suits. Oh, there it is. This is the Mizuno GX Sonic 5 MR. I think this is a pretty good entry point. There is the sprint version as well. I like the sprint version, but it's really compressive, really tight. So I think the MR, the multi-racer, is a pretty good entry point for Mizuno suits. And if you really like that and the compression, and you want to further it, go for the sprint, or even go for the SL if you want a little less. I really like them suits. I've always talked about Mizuno. I'm a bit of a Mizuno fanboy. And for women, look, I don't know. I've not tried a women's suit on still to this day, but I hear really good feedback from the lesser compressive suits, the more comfy suits. And I hear really good things about the Tira Victor. It's a super comfy suit, I hear, and the straps are comfy. And also the Speedo Pure Valor. It's a pretty standard suit. Women really like that. So I'm not talking about from experience, but they're the ones I get a lot of feedback from athletes I've worked with for women's suits. Also, if you don't want a master's program but want to support me in some way, I sell really cool T-shirts. One I'm wearing here has got a cool graphic on the back. I don't know if you can see it half decently here. I also sell caps. So if you want to support me and don't need a program, you can check out my merch on my website as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, look, thanks for coming on again, and I wish you all the best in your new venture. Well, it's a venture that's already started, but I know you want to really kind of double down on all of this now. So I hope it goes well. I hope people sign up and start seeing PBs. Who knows? Maybe at the next nationals, we'll see loads of PBs, and half of them will be on your program. But obviously, hope to see you there yourself swimming.
Yeah. What are you racing, Joe?
Oh, I'll be there. I'll be there, probably doing free fly, breaststroke, 50s, 100s, maybe a 200. A bit of a range.
There we go. I was gutted to not see you at the last one, but I'm excited to see you. I'm excited to race. You'll be swimming fast, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the plan.
Awesome stuff. Cheers for having me on, Joe.
Thanks a lot, mate.
It's been a pleasure.